Welcome back to Winning and Losing Fight. Troy Green here. We've got Mindy Green in the studio again.
Hello.
It's getting to be a regular thing. She's usually works on the weekends, and she's gotten lucky and been off the last couple weekends. So, which is normally when we shoot, usually on a Sunday, unless I'm home mowing the grass. But anyway, today I think we're going to talk a little bit about foster care. I've been talking to some other folks that we're going to have on, some foster parents, and spoke to a gentleman the other day who's a foster parent, but he also works for DHS, Department of Human Services, and he has adopted several children. And so I wanted to take some time and kind of talk about my particular situation in foster care. Even though it was a long time ago, the thing is that things really haven't changed that much. And I'm learning that the more that I talk to people. Mindy and I, we've been married, we've been together for going on 27 years. And so she's gotten to hear, a lot of the stories as I have remembered them, and as I've been willing to tell some of them throughout over the years. The first many years we're together, I didn't talk a whole lot about a lot of things about my past. But anyway, I thought today would be a good day to sit down and kind of go through some of the ins and outs, I guess, if you will, of foster care. For those of you who don't know how the system really works and what the point of view is like from the child, from the person who was in the system, which even I'm not a child anymore, but but it's still shaped. It helped to shape who I am, right? And the type of personality that I have and some of the,
many things.
Go ahead, the things that you noticed over the years.
Many things that you don't want other children to have to go through.
For sure. There's a lot of that. And there are some really good foster homes out there. Sadly, I don't feel like I experienced them.
How many foster homes do you know?
7.
7?
7,
Over what span of time?
Over 12 years. Yeah.
7 different homes.
Over a 12-year span. But the kooky thing is, people don't realize, is that regardless of how bad the home life is, the state's plan is for you is to try and reintegrate you back into the home, right? They don't always necessarily view your situation and foster care for you as a permanent fix, right? They want you to get the original plan is to get the parent or parents to do or fix what they need to fix so that you can go home. In my situation, they kept they would reintegrate me back into the home and things would go right back to normal. The neglect and the abuse and all that would go right back to normal. And I would end up back out on the streets because I didn't want to be at home and breaking curfew. And then they would snatch me up, or I would get in trouble and I would get snatched up that way and end up right back in the youth shelter waiting placement for another foster home and start the whole cycle over again. Now, some homes I left on my own and some I didn't. And I think that for a child, for me, I can't speak for other children. Now, I've shared space with a lot of different people, a lot of other kids, shared a bedroom with them, and listened to their story and how they ended up where they are. Some of them had some real problems, some real issues, and had gone through some really horrible stuff. But
you did as well. We'll get to another day.
I it's relative, right? And like you said, maybe we'll get into that someday, on another day. But I think the lucky thing for me, and we just spun off where I was going here, but the lucky thing for me was I had I had a huge mental block for some of the darkest parts of my youth, right? My young youth. And so, but I was getting to a point in my life, and this really spun off, and I was trying to make a point. Now, hopefully I'll work my way back to it. But I was getting to a point in my life where mine was just an unexplained anger, right? And I wasn't acting out per se, like you envision a kid who's acting out all the time and screaming and throwing things, and that wasn't me, right? And I was too old for all that mess. But I put it this way. I've told a story once on a campaign trail when I was running for office, which that's a whole nother video, but about a teacher, and some people who know me, when they listen to this, are going to be like, yeah, we know exactly who he's talking about. But I had a teacher in the 4th grade who, if you didn't have your homework done, you got a paddling. You go in the hall, and she would get the teacher across the hall to come out as a witness, and you get a couple of swats with the paddle. Well, I rarely had my homework done, and so I got a lot of these. But I'm 9 years old. 9. And I didn't think about it back then. Kids are pretty resilient. You just, I got my ass busted today, and you just go on with your day. It's embarrassing to come in after that, by the way. All the kids are staring at you. I remember where I was going now. A minute ago, I get back to it, but no one ever asked me why. And I'm sure she did with Troy. Why isn't your homework done? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't do it. But there's more to it than that. There's things going on at home. And you would think they would expect that there would be an adult in the house making sure that a 9-year-old is getting their homework done. But it never got to that. And as life goes on, I was in a particular foster home for 3 days. And on the 3rd day, I came home from school, and I was told, he wants to see you in the barn. Now, this was a big ranch, so I didn't think too much of it. Thought, well, maybe we had a fence to fix, or, I get out there, and he's standing there with this big paddle. And he says, you didn't make your bed this morning. And I'm like, I woke up late. I slept through. I snoozed my alarm. And he goes, well, you think 15 swats would help you remember? And it really struck me. I was pretty angry, but, I held it in. I'd been in enough trouble in my life, and I didn't need more. And I was trying to make this situation work. And I said, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to remember from here forward. And talked him out of, me getting 15 of these things. If he's ever had it, he would know that 2 is plenty. I mean, it's bad. Hurts bad if they hit you hard enough. So, but it dawned on me that everybody wanted to fix me with violence. And then wonder why our youth are violent. Why people grow up to be violent. It makes no sense.
I mean, discipline is one thing, but
I can't count. Oh, I agree. And I've spanked my children, growing up when I had to, but we just can't fix everybody with violence. And in junior high, again, I got paddled multiple times, usually for stupid stuff, smoking cigarettes on the school grounds, or, but I listened to the vice principal, who was also a PE coach, and one of the football coaches, who was also the history teacher, bragging about how high they could lift a student off the ground with their paddle. I was one of them. So, but again, the violence thing, I guess we can come back to, but this takes me back to the child's perspective on foster care and how hard it is to learn a new set of rules every time you go into a new placement. There's new rules. right? I just barely missed getting my ass beat for not making my bed on day 3. Which, by the way, on day 2, the first morning I wake up there, right? This guy comes in, runs a bath for me. He goes, you need to take a bath. Let me back up. I am wrong. The day I got there, I showered that morning because I knew I was leaving one home to go to another. And that's a whole nother story, why I had to leave that home and go to this one. The same day, after my caseworker left, he goes in, shows me my room, runs the bath. I have my own bathroom, which is cool. Never had that before. I had a pretty nice bed and everything. I said, well, I just took a shower this morning. He said, I don't care. He said, I don't want you bringing stuff into my house and give it to my kids. And poured so much bleach in the water to kill my cooties that it blistered my skin. First day in this foster home. Big ranch. It's a young couple. They're in their, they're 26 and 28 years old. They've got 2 small children, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and me. And I'm probably 13. Stands there, which is also traumatic for a young teenager, for somebody to see you naked, and watch me take a bath.
So why do you think they were foster parents? It doesn't seem...
Well, everybody has their own reasons, right? Because they needed employees. They worked me to death.
And, I know a few families, that nurses that I work with that are foster parents. And they're good humans, and they foster for what most of us feel are the right reasons to do it.
Well,
but that's not the whole entire world. There are people that do it for other reasons.
It's what you see, right? Just like what the people outside this house saw, which was a family that's at the church every time it's open.
Yeah. So,
but the point I was making was every time a child moves into a new home, there are all these new rules that they've got to learn, and different table manners, maybe a different religion and different ways of doing things. This particular home, they were Church of Christ, and you couldn't dance, no dancing, couldn't go to the dance. But just different things, and trying to relationships, regardless of what type of relationship it is, takes time to build. And, and again, 3 days in, this guy's going to fix me with a big piece of wood because I didn't make my bed. And so I want people who've never been in this situation to understand what children are going through. And they're not going to just switch to your idea of things overnight. It's traumatic for them. The change is traumatic on top of what got them there in the first place. And talking about this one particular home, not too long later, I don't know. It's so long ago, it's hard to remember, but some time has gone by, and I'm learning how to do this. It's a huge ranch. So there's cows to work, and there's fields to mow, and hay to bale, and there's just always stuff to do. And so he has his father, who I guess you would consider my foster grandparent, take me out, and he's going to show me how to run a sickle mower. Okay? I'm a kid from in town. I've never done any of this stuff before. And he's got me on the tractor, and he's showing me how everything works. And it's hot, and the wind and dust is blowing around, and I'm like, well, this sucks, And I'm like, I don't want to do this. And he goes, well, then take your ass back to the house. So I go back to the house, and it's a long walk, across this big pasture, down a dirt road, and I get home and I'm in the house, and the lady of the house, I'm trying not to use any names here, but she goes, "Well, what are you doing?" I was like, "Well, he told me to come back to the house, so here I am." Well, then we hear gravel, being slung, and her husband is sliding sideways into the driveway, pissed off. And we both look out the kitchen window, and he sees me and says, "Get your ass out here." And he meets me in the garage, and he slaps me. Oh, sorry, I bet that was loud. And then he starts choking me. And he chokes me till I'm almost unconscious, and I hear her scream his name and said, "Stop, you're killing him." And the whole time he's choking me, he's like, "You don't ever tell me you don't want to learn something. You want to be stupid your whole life." And slinging me around, and we fell into this file cabinet, and again, violence. What do you think would have happened to me if I'd have punched him in his face for choking me?
Well,
what do you think would have happened?
He probably would.
And do you know how many people are sitting in jail today because of a situation similar to that? They would have sent me to juvenile detention. And it wasn't fair. It wouldn't have been fair. But I didn't. I can't say I didn't stand at the bottom of the stairs a couple of nights and contemplate going up there and giving him a good ass whooping in his sleep. But I didn't. But again, society would have judged me, for how I turned out regardless. Even though it wasn't you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And these are the things I want people to understand about foster care. They're not all great. They put on a great front, and she was fantastic. I thought she was great, but I think that they were too young for what they were doing. And then they started getting other foster kids, and they were all about my age, and we were just sled dogs, workhorses. We combined wheat, baled hay, hauled hay, fed cows. I mean, it was nonstop. Matter of fact, when I asked to play football, he said no. He needed me in the field.
How did they treat their own children?
Great. From what I could tell, fantastic. Now, I know how their story turns out, after all these years, but we're not going to talk about that. But because I just want to stick to the child, the kids in the system and what they're going through. And some foster homes are actually trafficking children. Foster kids are being sold and trafficked in the foster care system. Think about the situation that put them there. And I need, go ahead.
So the system is broken because you think they would, what am I looking for? You think they would.
There's no oversight. There's not enough oversight.
And how is it that, what determines if you qualify as a foster parent or not?
Well, that you go through a training program, that teaches you to, expectations and things of that nature. You go through like parenting classes for foster parents. And I don't know how much that's changed over the years. Keep in mind, foster parents get paid. They draw a check from the state to help cover the expenses of taking care of that child. So some people do it for the money, and very little of that money. I mean, back when I was in, we got clothes from the state. They were off-brand. They rarely fit right. They were terrible, but they were new. And, so what was the money for? I guess it paid for groceries, paid for my upkeep, but I was making them money at this one particular home, combining wheat. But anyway, there are a lot of situations like that. I went to one home that I was number 13. 13 kids. And I ran away that night. I just couldn't stay there. Dinner and at mealtime was like an assembly line, and it was just a hodgepodge of different kids, and it just wasn't for me. I wanted someone to care about me. That's what I looked for. You know, that's what you hoped, with that you're going to find a home, a place where you feel like you belong. And I never once got to feel that, not once. They always made me feel like an outsider, even though they probably tried not to.
So
They'd never treated me the way they treated their own, and you were just a bastard.
So you never knew your mother, and basically your father could give a shit.
That dude, I was just a pain in his ass. He had me late in life. He didn't want me. Yeah. He was he just ran the streets. He was in the bars all day, you know, chasing women at night, and he was rarely home. When he was screaming about something, or, you know, swinging a belt at you for something you did or didn't do, or, you know, or talking down to you. He was very verbally abusive.
And it's very important on a child's development that they are nurtured. Of course, disciplined as well, but nurtured.
I agree. Children expect discipline to a degree, but you need someone who cares about what's actually what you're feeling, what you're going through.
So what's quite amazing here is, to me, you as an adult, you seem very caring. You care a lot about other people. To think about the human that I know you are, and to look back and to have never known your mother, going through a childhood where any kind of nurturing ever occurs, it's quite astounding to think about the person you are now, and just a caring human, a humanitarian.
I'm proud to consider myself a humanitarian.
And it is known that, you know, nurturing being such a big part of a child's development, because that teaches them how to be a nurturer. And I see you as a nurturer, you know, many aspects of you. And it's just astounding to think about that. And you were never nurtured.
I don't feel like I'm a nurturing person. I'm pretty rough around the edges.
You're rough around the edges.
But I care.
Yes.
You know that I care. I mean,
Yes.
It's the caring part.
And to know what.
I know what the pain feels like. I know what the longing feels like. I know what the imposter syndrome feels like, and the lack of belonging feels like. And so that's empathy. I can empathize with those who are experiencing these things, right? The nurturing part, I think that is missing, because I don't feel like that I was a real nurturing parent. My kids know, I mean, this isn't the episode, but I just want to talk about foster care. But I mean, you know, we have great children. They know how much I love them, but, you know, I probably could have been less abrasive, you know, but I was the parent that wanted to prepare them for the world. You know, I wanted to make sure that they weren't callous, you know, that they understood sympathy and empathy and things of that nature, even though I wasn't a touchy-feely type of a father. You know, everything was a lesson, right? You know that.
Well, that's
and most of that was learned in the martial arts school that we have. But do what?
Well, I think the majority are fathers that way.
Probably, maybe, yeah. But I just wanted them to be ready, you know, for whatever was coming. But again, back to foster care. You know, I want to talk about this because these challenges are still being faced today, and it's something that we aren't throwing money at. The government, the states aren't throwing enough money at it, but again, as we talked about on another episode, that we have a bad habit in this country of throwing money at the damage rather than the prevention, right? And how much more productive will young people be coming through foster systems if they're treated right, they have a nurturing home where they feel respected as a human being, right? And nurtured, and have a support system beyond the foster home once they age out of the system. They're going to be more productive members of society. They're not going to end up on the street, hopefully, or in jail, or
Trafficked.
or having a mental breakdown at some point and developing schizophrenia. You know, there's no bridge still, which is another thing I want to talk about today, because we talked about in our episode about homelessness, how there was no bridge for me. I aged out straight into homelessness. And still today, I've learned there are some community services that are helping foster kids bridge into adulthood, but it's a community thing, and it needs to be broader. It needs to be at the state level. There need to be federal resources allocated to this situation, and we need to get DHS the funding it needs so that there could be oversight, so that these kids aren't falling into
unfortunate situations.
They've fallen into pure darkness, to complete darkness, where people rarely even know they exist. I wondered at times if people even knew I existed.
And then again, we're talking about, we're not talking about those foster parents that are good.
There just needs to be, we need more good people. That's why I wanted to have this episode, because we need people who can't have children, or deciding to, or electing not to have children, should look at fostering or adopting if they don't want to. There are
there's a lot of lost children.
Yeah. At any given time, there's roughly 460,000 foster kids in the United States who need homes, who just want to belong. And man, bless these parents who are taking children in and spending time with them, letting and cultivating that relationship and letting them integrate into the family, and then adopting them. I get that. Give me chills. Because that is a kid's dream come true. And to have that feeling of belonging is the one thing I'll never know what it feels like, other than, this type of relationship. But this is different, right? This is different. And
you totally missed out on that as a child.
Yes. Yeah. So, and we aren't fostering. Somebody's going to say, well, hey, are y'all fostering? No, we are not. We are late bloomers. And, we just graduated college not too long ago. We're both in grad school, and we're trying to make up for some lost time here ourselves before we figure out. And we talked about it a lot. I mentioned it yesterday that we should start fostering as soon as we can, because we really need parents and people who care. Now, is there a possibility that you're going to get a child that you just don't click with, there's just a personality conflict there? We're all just humans. And that's the way I raised my children. I raised them as small human beings who have the same feelings and emotions that I do as an adult. And I was able to do that as a parent because that's how I felt as a kid. And the way people talk to me, and I'm like, well, why am I not allowed to be upset? Why am I not allowed to cry? Why am I not allowed to show my frustration?
Yeah.
That it doesn't make sense. And so you need to understand if you're going to foster, that you're not always going, it's not always going to work right away. And sometimes it may not work at all. And give it your best shot. And if it doesn't work,
Keep trying.
you know, I hate to say it, but you send them back and try again. You know, I got sent back. I actually had a foster home that I was enjoying, that I liked. It was okay. And she was a school teacher. And oddly enough, she was single. And she had 3 daughters of her own. And she had another foster kid who was, I think, a year older than me. And so I was a little stunned that they let her foster, being a single mom. But she was a full-time school teacher. And I liked it. They're okay. They were Methodist, which is something I hadn't experienced before. So I learned a little bit about the Methodist community. But her other foster son, I was smoking back then. I started smoking at a young age. Now I'm running the streets, and the only friends I had all smoked, and so I smoked too. And I probably smoked my first cigarette at probably in 4th grade, you know. But by 5th grade, I was smoking regularly. But anyway, I was a smoker. And, you know, your caseworker tells the parent, you know, the family you're moving into all about you, you know, he smokes, and they're like, well, it's fine. You can smoke outside or whatever. But the other foster kid smoked too, only she didn't know it. He was secretly smoking. And anyway, she caught him smoking one day, and it was all my fault. It was my fault because I got him started smoking, and it wasn't the case. I didn't have any cigarettes when I got there, and he had a stash. He's the one that got me through when I first got there, because I didn't have money. I couldn't buy cigarettes. And yeah. And so, and I guess he didn't tell her he was already smoking. So I was the bad guy, and she gave me up, had me moved. And that's, and so I ended up at foster home number 2 after that, or number 3. So it happens. And so, yeah, we're starting to run over our time now, and it's maybe getting a little mundane, but yeah, I just, I wanted people to have a little bit of insight, and there's no way we could cover everything in one episode. And because of that, I've reached out, and we're going to try and have some people on and kind of do a little mini series here with the podcast. We're going to have someone in, a foster parent in, to talk about the challenges that they're facing as a foster parent, as far as resources and things of that nature, assistance they're getting from the state or from DHS, and resources for the child that they're taking in. And I talked this week with someone who actually works for DHS and is a foster parent too. And he's decided that he would love to come on. And so we're going to set up a couple other episodes here and do some follow-ups on this, and that'll help prompt me maybe some other memories, things that I've dealt with, some of the caveats and challenges. And bless my caseworker's heart, he stuck with me. I put him through hell, especially running away in the middle of the night. You know, him getting that call at 2 o'clock in the morning that Troy's run away and nobody knows where I am. And the poor guy just, you know, we stayed close even after I grew up. And with my school, you know, I reached out to him and with our family martial arts school and said, hey, you know, pick out some kids, you know, 6 kids you think we can save and send them to me, and we'll teach them. And that, you know, so we stayed close until, you know, for the rest of his life. And he said that after 30 years in DHS that he feels like I was his only success story. So
their job,
I don't know how that's possible.
Their job has to be,
it's difficult.
Yeah.
And
they only have so much resource.
And I know he carries that stuff home. He carried that stuff home every day. I know he cared about me, but he had a lot of cases, you know, and he just couldn't devote all of his time to me. So, yeah. But anyway, that's it for today, for this episode. We really, really appreciate you guys being here. I know some of this got maybe a little dull and mundane, but I wanted to go through it in some detail. And
It's a conversation.
it is. Yeah. Just wanted to have the conversation, get you guys thinking, and hearing some things maybe you didn't know about foster children and things of that nature. So, anyway, feel free to message me on social media if you have questions. Message me if you have ideas for the show. Message me if you want to come on. If you've got something you want to say, and we can have a good conversation. We'll talk about having you on. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and other social media at Winning the Losing Fight. Same on YouTube at Winning the Losing Fight. Please like and subscribe there. Be sure and share our episodes because it really helps a lot. We won't always get to have Mindy in the studio, but I'm so glad that she's here, and we'll have her on as much as we can. So
Yes, I'm fixing to get back at it.
yeah, we're both school's kicking back in for me too, so it's going to be tough. But and we got to get her back to working overtime because we got bills to pay. And,
It's a good thing I like to work.
That's right. That's right. But we're going to have her back on and talk about some medical stuff and challenges with the medical industry. And she's about to graduate with her master's and going to go, she's going to go into her DNP. We'll talk about that because I'm pretty proud of her and where she's going to get to go and all that good stuff. But anyway, Thank you guys again. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Winning the Losing Fight, wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next time.